Donald Trump, the U.S. president, was actually asked about the trade war and whether or not the U.S. was in fact in one. Here's how he actually framed and phrased that specific answer.
Are we in for a sustained trade war with China?
Well, you're in one now. Look, we have 100% tariff. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be exposed as being a nothing. We would have no defense.
President Trump spoke after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent floated a longer pause on high U.S. levies targeting China to resolve a conflict over critical minerals.
Right now, we are currently in a 90-day roll on the tariffs. So is it possible that we could go to a longer roll in return for a delay? Perhaps. But all that's going to be negotiated in the coming weeks.
Now, for The View from Beijing, here's a quick glance at today's edition of the People's Daily. An article on Xi Jinping's economic thought strikes an assertive tone on trade tensions with the United States. It frames the tariff spat as among the, quote, tough battles and protracted wars China must endure to make the economy stronger. It says China will fight to the end and quotes Xi's call for party members to, quote, enhance the sense of crisis, carry forward the spirit of struggle, and improve the ability to fight.
Yeah, looks like both sides are geared up for something a bit longer than maybe most had expected this time last week. Derek Wallbank is with us, our Bloomberg senior editor, joining us to help us understand really the setup, Derek, as we go into, well, hopefully the meeting still in 2 weeks' time, Derek. So, I mean, stakes are obviously quite high, but both sides seem to be digging in more than expected here.
Yeah, that's exactly right, David. I would read this in a couple of different ways. I don't read this as Donald Trump necessarily declaring that there is a trade war as like a fresh new declaration. What I do read this as is Donald Trump sort of surveying the landscape of where we are and noting that there are, trade conflicts between the United States and China. It's more of an observation than a declaration, if that makes sense. But certainly, look, you're exactly right. The U.S. and China have been ratcheting up trade tensions incrementally in the lead up to this widely expected Trump-Xi meeting that could happen within weeks on the sidelines of the APEC conference in South Korea. You have seen China not be importing U.S. soybeans. Remember, we talked the other day about the idea that is not just a commodity, but that's also a shot at Donald Trump's political supporters. Then you're talking about Trump having his own, retaliation, and looming over this is a threat of 100 percentage point increase in U.S. tariffs on all imported Chinese goods.
Hey, Derek, you mentioned APEC. There's another gathering, obviously, in D.C. IMF, World Bank, and G7 finance ministers will be there. They're mulling how strongly worded statement, if at all, essentially their response to China's actions to curb rare earth mineral exports. What do you think will come of that?
Well, Stephen, yeah, I'm waiting to see exactly what they say here, if this is going to be strong words or if there's going to be actions attached to them. I mean, look, the idea of Beijing effectively controlling supply lines for critical technologies is something that the G7 officials are certainly concerned about. We have heard that concern from a number of them, but what reaction they're going to take is a little bit difficult. I mean, you're talking about a lot of economies independently. We've already seen the European Union, talk about some, tougher stances towards China in terms of some of this technology. But we've also seen a lot of tough rhetoric fail to get backed up by actual policies that are especially that are coordinated across economies. That adds in a range of difficulty.